Good morning. It is the last day of September. A little chilly today in Jersey. Still got a fractured foot, so I can't get out and fish. So I figured I'd do another video. And today's video is on a lure that I have come to really like and kind of entrust in on lakes that I fish on. Not necessarily my home lake of Magnolia, but other lakes. This lure has turned out to work out pretty good in these lakes, especially lakes like Birch Grove. And that is the Ozark Trail Frog. Now you go, well, there's a million frogs out there. Yes, there is. And I have a lot of them. I have booyahs, I have zoom frogs, I've got the man's frog, I've got horny toads, I've got Bobby's perfect frog, I've got a lot of scum frog frogs. I've got trash pandas. I've got everything under the sun you could possibly want to throw in a frog. And this frog here does the job. It does it really well. First things first, it's $1.98. So it's $1.98. If you're throwing it where I'm talking about the lakes, Birch Grove, lots of pickerel, and that's where this thing shines. Because instead of me throwing out an $8, $9 frog and losing it to a pickerel, I can throw this $1.98 one out and possibly get it in. Or if I lose it, I don't care. I really don't. It's a $1.98 lure. I've got 10 or 15 of them. I keep them one or two as backups when I take it out fishing. And they're, you can modify them and make them how you want. They start out life as your basic rubber frog. And at $1.98, it's a good price. Things I like about this frog is, for one, obviously, is the price. But two is the thickness of the frog. Now, this frog here, the body is thick. It's a thick frog. And that's nice because that means it doesn't rip as easy. When you start getting into the pickerel and stuff, they will tear a frog up. And this one here will get a slice in it, and you'll be able to repair it, and you'll get 4 or 5 fish before it's destroyed. But, that's the great thing about it. It's $1.98, and you can do that, and it's not bad. The other thing is, like I said, it also has a great hook setup. Now, on a lot of frogs, if you notice here, see how the hooks are away from the body? I didn't do that on this one. That one came that way. So what happens is when you're scooting this thing across water and let it sit, there's more hook to penetrate. It doesn't have to squeeze it to get hooks into them. Where a lot of frogs, the hooks are so tight up against the body that they got to actually bite down on the frog to expose those hooks. This one doesn't take it. They take a swipe at it. Lots of times they'll get a hook stuck in them, and then they'll clamp down on it. It'll really hook them. Great thing about the hooks are pretty sticky sharp on these, and they work, and it works well. The other thing is this bait rides at about a 45-degree angle in the water. So it sits like this. It's got a nice weight in the bottom here. See that weight? I got blacked out. It sits at about a 45-degree angle, which makes it, when you're just sitting there, the legs just kind of flutter, and lots of times you'll get bit just letting it sit there. Get a little twitch, let it sit, twitch, let it sit, and something will explode on it. The other thing is, when you cut the legs down like this, I have the legs really short on here, and that's because this frog walks really good. If you have the legs short like this frog will walk like there's no tomorrow, and that's what's nice about it. Another thing, too, is when I cut them short like this allows me to throw it into spots where if it hit a branch, the legs would wrap around a branch. It has a tendency not to do that. But yes, when you cut the legs short, it walks the dog. There are some modifications you can do to this thing, like one, the legs. Two is if you UV resin or super glue. I don't really use a lot of super glue, but you can use a glue to close up the holes on the legs. What I do is I put a hole in the top of it. You see that hole there? A little off center, I know. But what that hole does, once I seal all the holes up, this thing will stay floating. And if it does get water in it, I can squeeze it out by that little air hole. And if the fish bite down onto it, that air hole will allow it to collapse a little better. So that's one thing I do. The second thing I do is, if you look on front here, I do the braid. I tie the nose off with braid line. And that keeps water from getting in. That also, the best thing about that is that not only does it keep the water from coming in, but it allows the bait not to slide down the hook and tear the bait up. Lots of times it'll rip the face off, a bass will hit it, it'll slide. If you've ever gotten the frog back and the frog body's completely off the hook, lots of times that's what this will do. Not do, geez, that's not the word I'm looking for. That will happen when the bass just tries to annihilate the frog. And that's how a lot of the basses get ruined. The baits get ruined, is that the front end gets tore up and doesn't want to stay on the hook anymore. Another thing I do is the eyes obviously fall out. every eye falls out on these frogs. I don't care what it is. My dogs are starting to bark here. Hush. So what I do is I just take a black marker and blacken out the eyes, and it works well. I mean, the bass don't look at the eyes, when the frog's sitting there. So it works well. A little black marker does that. The other thing I do is that I do the bottom as well. And if you look on the black on the bottom, see the dots how they're kind of faded out. Well, that's what happens when the marker sits on them for a while. They start to it's not fade. It's start to bleed. They bleed out and they look like they were designed to be in the plastic. Now I just put black lines on this one to break it up a little bit more, and give it a week here, and they'll be the same way. But I did this when I cut it off this morning. I was like, I got to add some more lines to this thing. And what I'm trying to do is trying to just break up that whole white silhouette of the bottom there, give it a little color. The dots, I think it makes it look like a crappie. The black lines will spread out, make it look like a crappie as well, or something else. But the contrast actually allows it to look better in the water. The other thing I do is that it's not on this one, but I usually put a little orange in the front of the nose here, and that makes it look a little bluegillish when it's bouncing across the water there, and that'll get your fish as well. So, but overall, overall, it's a great bait. $2. Put it in your arsenal, and you'll catch a lot of bass on it. It will get you bass, get you pickerel, and if you lose them, you don't care. And they skip like a dream. When they're like this, these things skip pretty good. So get some. Let me get out of here before these dogs start barking, and get on the water and throw some of these. This is the time of year for these things. Get out there and get you some fish. $1.98 at Walmart. The Ozark Trail Frog.